Good morning. How you doing? What's going on? Well, not much. Just chilling on a Saturday. It's about 11:15 in the morning, March 2nd, and lots going on in the weather. Of course, we're talking high fire danger again in the plains, especially the southern plains. We have lots of wind in the west, even a couple blizzard warnings, some heavy snow in Salt Lake City. We'll start there. The mountains around Salt Lake City, especially, but even the valleys in central Utah they're looking at some decent snows here. And I didn't pull up both graphics, but the other one had a lot of wind. So winds gusting over 60, 65 miles an hour with the front that's approaching and blowing through. So they're looking for some significant accumulating snow starting today across northern Utah, but the snow will be heaviest with a strong cold front crossing northern Utah and southwestern Wyoming this afternoon into tonight, and then the front will stall over central Utah Saturday night. That's going to give the mountains 1 to 2 feet of snow, locally higher amounts, and the northern and central valleys 2 to 7 inches, and again blowing around with some strong winds too. So that's today's weather headline as we get into the hazards across the country. Watches, warnings, here's what's happening, and all that red from New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, through Kansas, eastern Colorado, parts of Wyoming, Nebraska, and South Dakota. It's a red flag warning. So high fire danger today. There's winds out of the south. It's warm, it's dry, and fire danger is high. For northern Kansas and parts of central Nebraska, dense fog advisory. I think that's mostly burned off by now. Same with Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. I don't know if that's persisting this morning, but dense fog advisory earlier. So be advised, the fog's going to be dense. Up in the northern plains, like way north, North Dakota, up into Montana, it's winter weather advisories and a winter storm warning as some of that colder air peaks into the United States. Further west, our big storm that's hitting California hard. We have blizzard warnings continuing today for the Sierra Nevada, and we have some blizzard warnings for eastern Nevada. Heavy snows still in California and Oregon, southern Oregon, and then further to the north in Oregon, Cascades and Coast Range winter weather advisories. That's also into Washington, Idaho, and northwestern Montana. And then kind of filling in the holes there, it's a lot of wind for California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, into New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming. So our big storm, mainly in the west, is what we're focused on. But ahead of that, those strong southerly winds into the plains could bring those fire dangers. That's what this gray area is for eastern New Mexico into West Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado. Critical fire weather possible. Meanwhile, it's heavy snow, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, California, of course, and Nevada, and parts of Oregon and Washington and some of the higher elevations there with snow for most of the locations, although mixed with rain depending on elevation, a little bit of freezing rain in North Dakota and Minnesota, and even some thunderstorms for San Francisco and along the central California coast, inland in central California, and thunderstorms for the southeast. Looks like all of Florida included in that, changing to regular rain further north, changing to rain mixed with snow further north, and a little bit of area freezing rain possible in New York State. Today's high quite warm in the Central Plains where we have the critical fire danger, temperatures in the upper 70s to near 80 West Texas, eastern New Mexico. We're talking 70s for Oklahoma and Kansas, 60s up into Nebraska, approaching 70, even 71 there in southern South Dakota. So very warm temperatures in the plains, 60s for Iowa into Illinois, and of course 80s for Florida, still on the warm side for southern Arizona as well. But look at the temperatures even in the Northeast. Mid 40s for this time of year. Well, we're getting towards spring, but even up in Maine, 45 degrees. It is turning colder in the west. In fact, if we look at highs tomorrow, watch this change. You can see the high temperatures shifting further to the east and the colder temperatures moving in from the west. And the northern plains, I mean, highs in the 20s for Montana into North Dakota. And then elevation, of course, will get you highs in the teens and 20s through Wyoming, Colorado, into Utah, and even Nevada, some 30s. And same for Idaho. Tomorrow's surface looks like this. We see our cold front advancing into South Dakota, Nebraska, kind of stalling out into Colorado, Utah. And it's along that stalled front that we read about earlier where the heavy snows will persist in central Utah. Heavy snow for Colorado as well. We continue with critical fire weather. So the fire danger is high. All of eastern New Mexico, West Texas, all the way down to Midland, Odessa, points south, all the way through the Panhandle into Oklahoma, and parts of eastern Colorado, and even a little bit of Kansas. Meanwhile, in the west, it's a mix of rain and snow, as the heavy snow in the Sierra Nevadas on the wane, but still there, and rain along the California coast, even some thunderstorms off the Oregon, Washington coast, maybe right along the coast. Meanwhile, southeast, thunderstorms. You get into South Carolina, North Carolina, that changes into regular rain towards the coast. And then a little bit of, again, freezing rain possible for North Dakota, and a mixture of rain and snow up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, even parts of Montana. Monday, we see things progress eastward. Now, warm temperatures persisting all the way through the Midwest into the Great Lakes, with thunderstorms possible all the way into Canada, all the way down to the Gulf Coast, and everything in between. Meanwhile, in the west, another system? Well, heavy snow for Idaho, at least, and the mountains of Oregon and Northern California, with a mixture of rain and snow even for the lowest elevations, Oregon and Washington and Northern California, rain along the East Coast. And we're even talking at least a slight chance, a marginal risk for some severe weather in the south. This is Tuesday into Wednesday. We're talking mainly Louisiana, Arkansas, East Texas, Southeast Oklahoma, a little bit of Mississippi. That darker green, that's your marginal risk for severe weather. In other words, not likely, but could happen. There probably will be a few thunderstorms in here that reach severe limits. Not expecting any tornadoes or anything like that. General thunderstorms in the lighter green, all the way from Florida, all the way up through Michigan, and points in between. So how does this play out in our GFS model, the latest run? Well, let's run through it and see what's going on. This is about a half hour from now, noon Central Time. You see the heavy snows coming down parts of Idaho towards Yellowstone. Some snows coming down northwest Montana. I'll have to text Dad and see if they got any snow on the ground. Idaho seeing some snow. Also, Oregon and Washington, pretty low snow levels here, even in Northern California. Here's your heavy snow with lots of wind for the Sierra Nevada with our blizzard warning. Blizzard warnings also for eastern Nevada, so we'll watch this area here and see what happens as we progress in time. We've got some rain along the east coast about a half hour from now, and as we go through the rest of today, we see that heavy snow moving through Utah that we talked about earlier, into Colorado. Heavy snows with wind continues, Sierra Nevada. Heavy snows up in Montana. We've got some rain all the way into Maine, so pretty far north. The warm temperatures and liquid precipitation, maybe even some heavier rain near New Hampshire, Massachusetts. And again, our heavy snow for Utah into Colorado, Sierra Nevada still seeing, and then up into Canada, but some of that colder air sneaking in with some of that snow into North Dakota and northern Montana. As we get into the day Sunday here, we see again our area of heavy snow for northern North Dakota, so way up there. We continue with warm southerly winds for the plains. Meanwhile, our front moving into the central Rockies with snow into Colorado, persisting light snows for northern California, the Sierra Nevada, into Oregon. Continuing light snow there as well. We still see winds into the southern plains. Warm temperatures being shunted eastward now as our cold front is moving through South Dakota into Nebraska, also through Minnesota, and again stalled out here in Utah, where some of that's going to be the focus for some of the heavier snows there. But it's warm temperatures for a lot of the Great Lakes all the way down through Texas and everything in between. That cold front makes slow progress to the east. So we're still on the warm side here in western Iowa, even as we get to Monday morning at 6 a.m. Some of the forecasts I'm reading, at least my local forecast, has the front through here later in the afternoon tomorrow. So we'll see who's right and what the timing of that front is. Meanwhile, a few thunderstorms just along the coast, southern and northern Carolina. It's not the right way to say that. North Carolina and South Carolina. Some thunderstorms along the Cape here. Some light snow out in the west as we get to Monday around noon Central Time. We're going to watch these thunderstorms as we get into the day Tuesday. Monday into Tuesday, we talked about the marginal risk for severe weather, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas. Even if these storms don't go severe, which would be hail in a diameter of 3/4 of an inch, wind gusts of 58 miles an hour or above. Those are pretty much your severe criteria. Of course, a tornado. So we're looking at least heavy rain and maybe some isolated severe storms here. Meanwhile, some more rain and snow for California, southern Oregon as we go. But that's very heavy rainfall down around New Orleans into Mobile, Alabama, moving into the panhandle of Florida. So a nice little wave of heavy rain. Now the heavy rain moving into Georgia. Lighter rain, Tennessee, into Kentucky, into Indiana, Ohio. Some rain up here in New England. Snows returning to Oregon, Idaho, parts of Wyoming, and the Sierra Nevada getting more snow, rain in the lower elevations. But we see heavy rain here moving out of Georgia into South Carolina and then North Carolina. Looks like a pretty good soaking here for you guys as that low forms and continues off to the north and east, bringing heavy rain now into Pennsylvania, parts of West Virginia and Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey into New York, and then up into New England. Heavy showers, maybe some thunderstorms for Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire. A little bit of a wave up here in the northern plains, bringing snow to North Dakota, parts of South Dakota. This gets us into Thursday morning here. And as we go through the day Thursday, we see our rain and snow in northern New England exiting. And then we see another area of showers and storms breaking out from Dallas, not quite down to Austin, maybe back towards Abilene a little bit. Certainly Oklahoma getting in on this, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri. And where I live here in western Iowa, we do have some rain and embedded thunderstorms in our forecast for Thursday into Friday. And that certainly is what the GFS is showing. Meanwhile, the showers get heavy for the South, Alabama, Mississippi, into Louisiana, and rain for Iowa, turning to snow when you get into Minnesota and moving into Wisconsin and eventually into Michigan with heavy rains across the South. Again, for Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, some very heavy rainfall. This is midnight Friday night, so this is how you're going to start the weekend, it looks like, if this comes exactly true. This gives you an idea of what to expect. So these heavy rain showers getting lighter as the day goes on, but still some embedded thunderstorms. And we've got snow for much of Michigan, a little bit of rain, southern Michigan, and also some snow out here into Pennsylvania, moving into New York State. As we get deeper into the weekend, this is ending the day Saturday, moving into Sunday. Light snow for New England as another system moves on shore in the west with rain for Oregon, Washington, California, snow in the higher elevations, of course. So everyone getting a chance at least at some rain. Certainly the South going to get hammered with a couple rounds of heavy rainfall and thunderstorms, some possibly severe Tuesday into Wednesday. And of course our blizzards out west, ending today for the Sierra Nevada, starting today for eastern Nevada, and then heavy snow with wind, no blizzard warnings, but heavy snow with wind into Utah this weekend. So later today be prime time for that. So those are our trends through mid-March. We're expecting above average precipitation for pretty much the entire country except for just a few spots up north and a few spots down south. And then our temperatures, the trends continue. Warm east, cool west, and equal chances in the white areas of above average or below average temperatures. So that's the rest of your weekend outlook. And as we get into next week, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll keep you posted. We'll have another update for you tomorrow. Lord willing and the creek don't rise. Thanks for tuning in, the Weather Mike.